So by now, it's probably pretty obvious that everybody in the world agrees that the best Harley Sportster is the Alright everybody, what is going on? As always, thanks for stopping by to yet another video today. Of course, it's Eric here at the Moto Jawn, and as you know, we love talking bikes, motorcycles of all makes, models, brand styles here, but of course, you know I do love talking about Harley Sportsters, and I'm pretty excited about this one today because I've been wanting to make this video for a while now. So obviously, the Harley Sportster has such a rich tradition in the Harley lineup, such an iconic bike. It's the longest continuously produced bike in the lineup. And of course, you know, obviously we all know it's going through some changes recently with the Sportster S coming out. And also, Harley actually just teased the new release of another Sportster that's going to be coming out on April 12th, I literally just saw that on Instagram and Facebook today. A little bit of a teaser there of the new Sportster coming out. And it kind of got me starting to think, like I said, I've been wanting to make this video for a while now. What is the best Harley Sportster out there? Or what was the best variation of the Harley Sportster? Because like I said, that bike has been rich in Harley's history. It's gone through many different styles and variations, mostly just in the looks category, different aesthetics. So what I want to do is actually rank some of the Harley Sportsters, some of my favorites, from some of the worst down to what I think is probably the best Harley Sportster of all time. And so for our purposes today, what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to take a look at some of the more, I guess I would say maybe modern Sportsters of the past 20, 25 years or so. Trust me, like I said, I know they go way back into the 50s, 60s, 70s, but for today, we're going to look at some of the Sportsters from about 2000 up to the current date. Now, I am going to exclude the Sportster S. I consider that like a whole different category. I'm not going to consider the new one that could be coming out. I'm really going to be looking at some of those different Sportster models from the 2000s up to the current date. So of course, before we get started, I know there's going to be a lot of views and opinions on this. Let me know what your favorite Harley Sportster is down in the comments. It could be a newer one, it could be an older model, whatever it is. Let me know what you think the best variation of the Harley Sportster of all time was. Let me know, drop it down in the comments. We'll see if you agree. Also, let me know as I walk through some of these, if you remember any of these, if you liked any of these, if you didn't like any of these. Let me know what you think of my lineup that I'm about to run through. Drop it down in the comments and let me know. So we're going to run through 11 different Sportsters that I have picked out here. And we're going to rank these down from 11 to 1. One being what I think is the absolute best one. So to kick off the list here at number 11 is the Harley Sportster Super Low 883. So I've got this one ranked very low on the list. I think this is probably one of the plainest, most basic Sportsters that was ever made. It's got the 883 engine. I didn't like a whole lot of the paint schemes on this. The Sportster's already a simple bike, but this one was just definitely one of the most basic Sportsters out there. I didn't like a lot of the paint schemes, like I said. It is very basic with the rims on there. I don't like the rims. Very plain, basic Sportster. It also doesn't have the iconic peanut tank. I believe what they call that is the teardrop tank, maybe. One good thing about it was it did have a 4.5 gallon tank, but because it had the 883 and it was so plain, not a lot of cool color options, and it didn't have that iconic peanut tank, I'm dropping this one in to start at number 11. Next up on the list, coming in at number 10, is going to be the Sportster 48. Now, a lot of people might be surprised by this one because this is one of the last standing Evo Sportsters out there. It's made it through all this time. But to me, the 48 comes in low on this list for a couple reasons. One of them is it did have the iconic peanut tank, but it's the 2.1 gallon tank. That tank is just not enough gas. Also, I feel like the 48 just didn't have enough color combos and variations. I was never too impressed by the color options and designs on the tanks of the 48. So for that reason, I'm putting the 48 in at number 10. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me on that one. You probably have that a lot higher on your list, but I'm dropping the 48 in at number 10. Next up on the list, coming in at number 9, we have the Sportster 1200T. So this one was Harley's attempt at making the Sportster a little bit of a touring option straight from the factory. You can see the picture here. You've got detachable windshield. You've got detachable bags. Another Sportster that had the, I guess that was like the teardrop tank. It's not the peanut tank. I think they were calling that the teardrop. It did have the 4.5 gallon tank, but in my opinion, I'm putting this one pretty low because the Sportster Of course, you can do all that traveling on it. I set it up differently for traveling. Bags, windshield, not my style, not the coolest looking Sportster that was ever made. So for that reason, the 1200T is coming in at number 9. Next, coming in at number 8 is the Sportster 72. Now, this bike was pretty cool. This one Harley did kind of as a throwback to some of the choppers and bobbers of the 70s. So you can see here, you've got that very chromed out look. There was a lot of really cool paint jobs with this one, actually. They did like the 70s throwback, like metallic flake style paint jobs. You've got the larger spoked rim up front. I think a lot of these even had like some thin white walls on them. Kind of a cool look there. I thought the 72 was pretty cool. I typically don't like the chrome, but the way that they did this one, I thought the 72 looked pretty cool. It's got the 1200 engine in it, but because it's got the 2.1 gallon tank again, I've got to keep this one a little bit lower on the list at number 8, so that's the 72 coming in at number 8. Next up, coming in at number 7, we have the 48 Special. So like I said, I had the regular 48 a little bit lower on the list. I was a bigger fan of the 48 Special, and I think they should have kept the 48 Special over the 48. So the 48 Special kind of took on that AMF graphic, and I think the paint and color options for the 48 Special were a lot better. The 48 Special had the 1200 engine, of course, and you also got the little mini apes on there. So a little bit more of a bobber look, I felt like, with the mini ape handlebars. That's why I put that higher than the regular 48. And also I felt like the paint schemes were a little better. The little finishes of the way they did the chrome and black I felt like was better than the 48. Those two bikes were running congruently at the same time at one point in time in Harley's lineup with the Sportsters. But I think the 48 Special was a little bit of a cooler, better looking bike. I wish they would have kept that one instead of the regular 48. So 48 Special, I like that one better because of the paint jobs, and you got the mini ape handlebars stock from the factory, creating a cooler look in my opinion. Next up on my list, coming in at number 6, is the 1200 Custom, the Sportster 1200 Custom. So as you can see from the pictures here, the 1200 Custom had some pretty cool different colorways and paint schemes on it. The 1200 Custom really kind of took on a cool look. It had a little bit of chrome fit and finish on it on the engines and the casings and the pipes. But the 1200 Custom, they kind of brought over that fat front tire onto this model, and I think that was pretty cool. My only gripe with the 1200 Custom, again, the only reason it's not higher is because, again, it's got that teardrop style tank. It doesn't have the iconic peanut style tank that we're used to with the Sportsters. I think the iconic peanut style tank is definitely a big selling point for me, the tradition of that tank. I still think this was a great bike. It had that teardrop tank, which again was 4.5 gallons, very efficient and effective with function there for that size of a tank, obviously. But the 1200 Custom was a very cool model. I liked the big beefy tire up front. It had some really cool colorways. Very cool functional Sportster coming in at number 6. Next up, coming in at number 5 is the Roadster. So the Roadster is a really awesome variation of the Sportster. Through all these years, the Roadster is pretty much the one Sportster that had the most drastic different changes to it. So what are some of those changes? You'll see them here in the pictures, of course. So the frame and everything obviously stayed the same on the Roadster, but what Harley did to kind of beef up this bike, make it a little bit more desirable, a little bit more performance oriented, you're going to see dual disc brakes up front, which is a pretty cool option. You're going to see inverted front forks on this, which is just totally different for every other Sportster in the lineup at the time. So also, if you take a look at the front of this, you've got kind of those low cafe style handlebars, not clipped handlebars, but they've got the lower cafe racer style handlebars that go across. And then again, the stock suspension was raised up a little bit in the rear on this bike. So with the Roadster, of course, they were looking at making that a little bit more performance oriented. It was the only Sportster, had the inverted front forks, the dual disc. Some of them even came with the speedo and the tachometer on there, raised up rear suspension. Really big changes for the Roadster to really separate it from all the other Sportsters that were in the lineup. Next up, coming in at number 4, and I might catch some flack for this one as well, not having it up closer to the top, but this is going to be the Iron 883. So the Iron 883, right now, I would say the Iron 883 is definitely the most iconic Sportster in the lineup. We know that could be going away. It sounds like it's going away at some point. But the Iron 883 coming in at number 4, the most iconic Sportster in the lineup. I know that bike is so popular and so huge. I might catch some flack. A lot of people are going to say the 883 is the #1 Sportster, but I have it dropped down just a little bit lower because, of course, the 883 engine just not quite as powerful, just not as quite as much get up as the 1200. For that reason, I've got it just a little bit lower, but obviously such an iconic bike in the lineup. I would say that has definitely been one of the most popular Sportsters. It's got a lot of great colorways. It comes in a lot of cool denim colors, a lot of cool gloss colors as well, the all blacked out look. Very awesome bike that a lot of people loved and have loved for many years now. But because it's the 883, I just can't put it up much higher than number 4 on this list. Next up, coming in at number 3, we've got the Iron 1200. Obviously up close to the top of the list because that's my bike. That's what I ride. No, I'm just kidding. But the Iron 1200 has to get a little nod ahead of the Iron 883 because it has the 1200 engine, of course. Just that little bit extra torque, a little bit extra power makes for a much better bike in my opinion. Also stock from the factory, you're coming with the Mini Ape handlebars. I think that's a much better riding position and a much better look for the bike, which is why I have it so high on this list. Also, maybe not a popular opinion, I'm a big fan of the AMF throwback graphics there. So you guys know my bike, all black with the blue print across it. I love it. It sticks out. It stands out. I love the look of the bike. Also, because more finishes are blacked out on the Iron 1200, that's why also I have it ranked above the 883. Next up on the list, coming in at number 2, we're getting to the top of the list here of the best Sportsters. Coming in at number 2 is the Nightster. So the Nightster is obviously one of my favorite Sportsters of all time. This bike really kind of set the stage for what we know today as the Iron 883 and the Iron 1200. The Nightster was one of the first Sportsters to come with these all blacked out fit and finishes here. It did have a little bit of chrome on it. It had really amazing paint jobs and colorways to kind of create that dark bobber aesthetic. But the Nightster was really the first Sportster that came with that darked out look. And I know there was other Harleys back in the lineup. There was the Night Train, a couple others that had some of the dark finishes first before it. But the Nightster was actually the first Sportster that had kind of that dark bobber look to it. It's got that laced spoked wheel up front. Absolutely love the look of the Nightster. That's why I have it so high on this list at number 2, because that bike really kind of set the stage for what we know, like I said, as the Iron 883 and the Iron 1200. That bike was really kind of the segue for those bikes to come in the future and really set the stage for those. The Nightster was around from, I believe, 2007 to 2012. A lot of great used ones out there on the market. Really cool tank options there, really cool color options, all kind of blacked out there through the engine. A little bit of chrome mixed in there, but because of what the Nightster did of really kind of being that catalyst for the all dark bobber look for the 1200 and the Iron 883, that's why I have it so high on this list, the Nightster coming in at number 2. So next, finally, the big reveal, my favorite Harley Sportster, the #1 Harley Sportster, coming in with the XR 1200. That's right, the Sportster XR 1200. This is one of the most sought after and unique Sportsters of all time. So the XR 1200 ran in the European market starting in about 2008 and then eventually made its way over to the United States in, I believe, 2009 and ran till 2012 maybe. But this bike is coming in definitely at the top of the list just because of how unique and how rare this bike is now at this time. When Harley first put this out, obviously, like I said, this was kind of modeled after that flat tracker look. You've got that kind of high exhaust that sweeps up, some of the high fenders in the front. You've got the dual disc brakes up front. You've got the inverted front end. Harley also tuned this motor a little differently with about 90 horsepower and 73 foot-pounds of torque, which made it one of the fastest Harley Sportsters as well. So the XR 1200 is just a whole different beast, whole different animal that ran for a few years. That's why I'm putting this at the top of the list at number 1. I wish that bike was still around. You still kind of see it inspired a little bit from the new Sportster S. We'll see if any of that carries over to any of these new Sportster models that they're making. We'll see with time. But now they're super popular, and if you see one of these things around, take a picture of it, remember it, because they're kind of rare. You don't see them that often, but because of how performance oriented and how cool looking and how awesome this bike is for the time that they made it and for the time now, That's why the Harley Sportster XR1200 is coming in at number 1 on my list of the best Harley Sportsters. So that obviously wraps up my list of the best Harley Sportsters. Make sure you drop a comment down there. Let me know what your favorite Harley Sportster is. Let me know what you think about my list, if you agree, disagree, if there's any of them that I forgot. Like I said, this was mostly some of the modern Sportsters of the last 20, 25 years or so. So let me know what you think of my list down there if I forgot any. And of course, let me know what your favorite Harley Sportster of all time is. So obviously that is going to wrap this one up for today, talking the best Harley Sportsters. As always, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for stopping by. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you give this video a like. Go ahead and follow us on Instagram too, at the Jawn, so you can stay up to date on everything we got going on. And as we wrap this one up, as always, we will catch you on the next one. Make sure you ride safe out there. Make it a good one, guys. It's the Jawn. We'll see y'all on down the road. Peace.